Welcome everyone back to Ruslan Bortnik YouTube channel in English. My name is James and I'm here today again with Ruslan. We're going to discuss the latest about Ukraine. Ruslan, I want to start with the North Korean troops that we talked about last week that can be potentially participating in the Ukrainian-Russian war. This week we've heard a US senior official stating that they can see that North Korean troops are being moved to the Russian land. South Korea went a little bit further and is urging the international community to react. What that reaction could look like from the international community and why South Korea is so concerned over the North Korean troops being deployed in Russia.
Hello, friends. Hello, James. Your question is very literally question because from the first sight, there is no reason for South Korea to worry about the North Korean troops on the Russian territory. If we are talking about it, because it means that North Korea spreading its potential, military potential to other wars, other lands, and so on. But if the situation is quite different, like general and world mass media are describing it. What I'm talking about? I'm talking about that for nowadays is the goals of North Korea and North Korean militaries in Russian territories are unclear, and maybe these troops on Korean territory or Russian territories. These North Korean troops, their goal is not participating in Russian-Ukrainian war, but only a preparation to the future Korean war between South and North Korea. Maybe North Korea is just using the Russian lands, Russian experience, Russian exercise abilities to achieve a new modern military experience, like for example, Russia used Belarusian abilities to train Russian troops on Belarusian territory before. So of course, South Korea is worried because if it's only a combination of preparation North Korean troops to the new Korean wars, it's a very big danger for South Korea. But of course, at last, partial, these troops, North Korean troops, could go to the Russian-Ukrainian war, could go to achieve, to obtain this new military experience. And so these goals are still unclear. Maybe it's only a training combination exercise on Russian lands. Maybe it's training and participation in the war. Maybe it's just preparation to participation in the Russian-Ukrainian war. And in this situation, South Korea presents a different type of reaction. South Korea says that we are ready to send our militaries to Ukraine also for preparation for obtaining military this experience. We are worrying for the international community about this situation, and moreover, you should know that South Korea selling to United States a lot of military equipment last years, not less than 300,000 artillery shells were sold to United States from South Korea during the last year. Of course, we clearly understand that these shells were just transferring through United States to Ukraine. And South Korea, for long time in this situation, takes part. Like North Korea, which is sending to Russia a lot of artillery shells, military equipment, and so on. But in any case, Russia is trying to make a game changer, to change this very exhausting, long-lasting war. And South Korean troops, if we will talk about the big amount of these troops, we're talking about 50,000 or maybe 100,000, of course, could change dramatically situation in the battlefield. So it's very important. My last stage is that very important. The first thing, it's amount of the soldiers of South Korea, and the second, it's very important also the type of equipment which they will use. If the North Korean army is coming to the Russian lands with its own artillery, armored vehicles, and so on, it's a huge danger for Ukraine in the West. If North Korean army is coming to Russian lands only with the people, only with the soldiers and officers, and then they will take a Russian weapon. Russia is also exhausted and feeling a very big shortage of weapon in this war. This is another story. This is another influence in this war, much lower, less dangerous for Ukrainian West.
You've touched a couple of important points on the operational side. If it's just North Korean personnel coming, or they're coming equipped with their own equipment from their home country. But before we get to that, I want to ask you about, you've mentioned that Russia is trying to create a game changer. If we trace back this war from Russian perspective, started as a special operation. More than 2.5 years later, they are inviting international troops to their land to be prepped and potentially participate in the war. Is it still a special operation, or it's growing into something bigger, a world conflict or an international war?
It is not a special military operation after 2 weeks or after the beginning of the war.
Why haven't they changed the name yet? Why they're still calling on their end special operation?
Because of law consequences. If you are alarming, if you are stating the war against another country, it's like you made a statement of you're guilty in the judge. So it's because of law consequences in this situation, and also because of public opinion, world public opinion. Because if you are saying that it is only a special military operation, it means it's a regional war, small conflict. Just don't take it into account. Even just don't see in this situation. Don't look at this situation at all. And it's a signal for Russian entire society that don't worry, everything is okay. It's far away from you, military operation. We will do the best in this situation. Don't worry. But the question of North Korean soldiers may be changing the situation, because if Russia will use these soldiers in internationally recognized Russian territories, like a Kursk Oblast, it's one case. Of course, but if the North Korean soldiers will go into Ukraine, into Ukrainian recognized territories, it will looks like international war, maybe not a world war, but international war, when three armies, maybe even more, are fighting together.
So now, if we take that case, hypothetically, if the second option is happening and we will have a hard evidence of North Korean troops participating in combat operations on internationally recognized Ukrainian land, right? We have talked a lot about, and not just us, most of the Western experts, they like saying that Russia has this red line and this red line. If we're going to send this weapon, Russia will react. Don't do this, don't do that, because there is a lot of red lines for Russians. Isn't that a potential red line for the international community, for the Western allies, to have a hard evidence of a potential participation of North Korean troops on the Ukrainian recognized land?
It depends.
Like what is the red line for the West?
To be honest, the red line for the West, it's the existence of Ukrainian state, like a buffer state, like a shield state to the borders of the European Union and NATO countries, to the Poland borders, to the Romanian, Hungarian, and other countries' borders, to be honest. And in this situation, the questions about the borders of Ukraine is not so important. It's a second question after the question of existence. So the reaction on this situation with North Korean troops depends on the situation on the ground, on the battlefield. If a big amount of North Korean troops will lead situation to the defeat of Ukraine, with losing the main cities and so on, Kyiv, Odessa, and so on, I think it will be a reason why Western partners of Ukraine could send to Ukraine their own troops. And the Ukrainian government now is trying to alarm this situation. North Korea sent its own troops to Russia, please send your troops to Ukraine. And just imagine if the Kyiv or Odessa will be under these dangers of capturing by the Russian Korean forces, I think their ability of sending Western troops, Poland troops, whole Britain troops, special units of these troops will be also very high, because the question of existence of Ukraine is also very hard and very important for the security of the West, or for the security of Europe.
And just the final piece that I'm trying to understand here.
But in another way, if the situation, if this even intervention of North Korea and so on will lead only to the losing of new areas on Donbass, in Kharkivska Oblast, on Zaporizhia, on Dnipropetrovsk, the Western partners of Ukraine will
express a high concern.
Yeah, something like that. They will use only a political rhetoric, like reaction on this situation.
And now just the final piece that I'm trying to understand here. Russia is bigger than Ukraine and it has higher population. They have more men force. They have more mobilization potential. Why do they need the North Korean troops in the first place?
Maybe most correctly to stand this question another way. Why does North Korea need to take part in this war?
That's the second part of it.
It's very connected, combined even questions. It's very cheap militaries, and the deaths of these soldiers and officers will not take any influence on Russian public opinion, on Russian public society. So it's one reason, and these militaries are very good prepared. Russia needs a time for preparation, new waves and new waves of soldiers and officers. And we now in the front line we have a very balanced situation, very tiny balance between Ukraine and Russia, and even a small weight on the wage can change situation dramatically in the battlefield. We see how Russian offensive operation continue in the different directions, but now Ukraine is still able to continue our defense operation. But this is a tiny balance. And from the other side, North Korea needs something to pay for Russian agricultural products, for Russian military technology. What North Korea can propose for Russia, except for humans. Yeah. And North Korea can pay by the money. North Korea are using all her military industrial potential to make shells for artillery and so on for Russia, and that's all. So it's a type of payment for Russian support, for Russian technologies, for Russian agriculture productions, and so on.
If we take it a step further, I understand that North Korea is trying to pay or potentially burden with the agriculture that Russia can provide, potential technology, potential equipment. But if we take it the next step, is there a higher, bigger plan for potential participation and training of North Korean troops on the Russian territory? I mean, can they plan for a bigger war already in the Korean Pacific region?
Of course, we don't know, but potentially Russia is able to train hundreds of thousands North Korean soldiers. And of course, if Russia will be successful in Ukraine, the possibility of a new Korean wars will be growing up. Also because trained North Korean army, and also because of growing up the general military abilities of North Korean government. I'm talking about the nuclear. I'm talking about the and different other technologies which Russia could transfer to North Korea. So, of course, any success of Russia in Ukrainian front will lead to the possible war in the South Asia, not only Korean peninsula, but also the situation around Taiwan and other very hot places in South Asia.
And lastly, you've mentioned at the beginning that Russia is trying to create a game changer, and it is indeed will be a game changer if foreign troops and battalion will participate in the Russian-Ukrainian war. Can we see other countries joining that conflict? I mean, do you think in the future we can see Iranian troops joining the Russian-Ukrainian troops, or any other allies of Russia will start participating and will feel more comfortable joining that conflict?
Of course, it's also quite possible not only Iranian forces, which now are combined with the conflict with Israel, which are busy, but the first place it's Syrian forces. After the regulation with Turkey, it's Cuba's forces also is able options. Maybe some other different countries. If this conflict will grow up, I can't absolutely decline that in the end of this conflict, we can see in this conflict also Chinese soldiers on vacation in Ukraine. And of course, and from other side, the situation is the same. I'm thinking if this conflict will grow up, the Polish, Britain, French, and maybe other nations' soldiers also could come to Ukraine.
To balance the situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ruslan, thank you so much for your analysis today. Thank you for your comments, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, James, for helping the dear friends. Please write down your comments. It will be a pleasure for me to answer for them. And don't forget to subscribe for our channel. We'll try to do our best to more often inform you about the situation in Ukraine and around Ukraine. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.